Executive, you guys, from behind bars, according to a Wall Street Journal report. The so-called Pharma Bro is serving a 7-year sentence for securities fraud.
It's been shut down now.
Iowa's highest court rules Medicaid must cover gender transition services in Iowa. Judges deciding reassignment surgeries are medically necessary and can't be denied. The bench finding that a 1995 policy denying Medicaid funding for such procedures discriminates against a protected class of people. Now, the liberal ACLU calls the ruling a, quote, landmark win. It's unclear if the state will appeal. 2020 presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren revealing her dream running mate.
Is it Pete?
I don't think so.
On the trust, and he didn't care how many people were going to be mad about it. It wasn't just that they were big, it was that they had too much political power.
I think you and she have a lot of common. I'm hearing.
You wrote a book in the arena, right?
I did.
All right, the Democratic senator also revealing she wants to break up major tech companies, claiming Amazon, Google, and Facebook are monopolies. A mom-to-be struggles to contain her disappointment when she finds out she's having another boy.
3, 2, 1.
She's having another bit.
Every time. The gender reveal party ending with some mixed emotions in California. Poor thing, her husband jumping for joy while she throws her confetti cannon to the ground. She says she is happy to have a boy, but was hoping to have a nice, calm little girl. Those are your headlines.
Oh, that is so true.
That is something else.
I love authentic
I
reaction.
love this. I know, totally.
And she'll love that boy, but like you can't deny that.
I feel like they should never show him that, though. I mean, how would that make you feel if that moment your mom was
I'd be like,
oh,
gotcha, Mom. I'm here.
Well, you want to talk about Trump derangement syndrome? We've got a whole new level of it. So the president does something nice yesterday, right? He goes to Alabama. He's sort of comforter-in-chief. I covered Barack Obama. He did that. George W. Bush.
Yep.
We had 23 people killed by these horrific tornadoes. So what could possibly be controversial? Well, he goes to a church, people obviously using their faith to get through this crisis, among other things, people coming together. Perhaps somebody asked him to sign a Bible. All of a sudden, there were photos on social media. A big line of people held up their Bibles and said, Mr. President, would you sign my Bible?
Yeah. Well, the media reacted this way, predictably, Ed, unfortunately. Elle.com said Trump is autographing Bibles now, so that's a wrap on humanity, right? Bill Prady, creator of The Big Bang Theory, says people don't understand the purpose of Trump signing Bibles. Many people are without a way to prepare food after a disaster. When Trump signs a Bible, it bursts into flame, and people can cook over it. Matthew Dowd continues, I don't know who it is a worse commentary on, Trump actually signing Bibles in Alabama or people asking him to sign a Bible. Lordy Moses.
The people there actually wanted him to do it. So I know, I've been out on the road with candidates where they're asked to sign a dollar bill, for example, and there's some controversy about whether you're really supposed to sign currency. If a citizen asks you and you're trying to be nice, what is the president going to do to these people who've just been through this horrific tragedy and lost family members? I'm not going to sign your Bible?
And I think that, unfortunately, it's so telling, and it is a reminder of what happened so many times in the past where you get that elitism coming out of the left where it's mocking people of faith. It's mocking these people who just lost 23 lives in their community and went through tornadoes, and it's just making a mockery out of the whole thing. Now, our friend Michelle Malkin, fact-checking, she says Truman signed note in an admirer's book of Psalms. Autographs of Clinton's, Gore, Carter's, Mondale, and Bible of collector Stephen Koshel.
Oh, so they all signed. Democrats signed, too.
Exactly. And heads exploding over Trump signing Bibles for Alabama tornado survivors.
Yeah. Send us your comments. friends@foxnews.com. Like me, do you have a new life goal? My new life goal is President Trump signs a Bible that I own.
You think
I'm going to
he'll
work
do
on that. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what in the world is wrong with this?
Right.
Faith is so important. It's central to so many people's lives. You go through a tragedy. The president of the United States is there. He signs it. Good for you.
It's also personal.
Exactly.
Faith is personal. And so how you choose to honor it or deal with it should be your decision. And certainly those on the left shouldn't be decrying how others view their Bibles when it relates to the President of the United States.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
Right.
Well done, Ed.
House Republicans releasing the transcript of DOJ official Bruce Orr's private testimony. We've been waiting for this. Guess what? It has some juicy nuggets. And Tom Fitton tells us how it highlights his ties to the author of the anti-Trump dossier. New connections, new ties between Orr and Christopher Steele. That's coming up.
My favorite juicy nugget, a chicken nugget. Welcome back. A couple of quick headlines for you. CVS Pharmacy changing the music they play when you're on hold. This after a doctor sends a scathing letter sparking a nationwide debate. Listen for yourself. Sounds fine to me. The Massachusetts doctor claims it haunted him day and night. CVS will update the tune later this year. I like it. Stick with it. All right, from one annoying sound to another, this woman shot her boyfriend over his snoring. Deputies say 47-year-old Lori Morin is facing attempted murder charges. Her boyfriend later told deputies in Florida he tried to fix the problem by buying roses, chocolates, and snoring nasal strips. Just nothing but the news for you folks.
We are all over it. Pete is all over that snoring story. Meanwhile, some serious news, new details about DOJ official Bruce Ohr and his ties to that anti-Trump dossier after House Republicans decided unexpectedly to simply release Bruce Ohr's private testimony. They put out the transcript. Here with more details is Tom Fitton. He, of course, is president of Judicial Watch. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Ed. Good to be with you.
It's great to have you here. Let's jump right in. This was a surprise. A Republican congressman put it out there. What's the biggest revelation to you?
Well, it confirms that Ohr was aware of the Fusion GPS ties to Clinton. He told others in the DOJ about it. So they all knew about that, but they never told the FISA court that. And then you have Ohr and Steele discussing Steele's contacts with Russia intelligence about supposed dirt they had on President Trump, or then candidate Trump. You know, it's incredible that you have this Clinton agent out there talking to Russia intel and not being investigated by the FBI for collusion, yet they were dropping everything to target Trump based on that very information. It shows you this dishonest approach that the FBI and DOJ had. And, you know, on top of this, Ed, we had just earlier this week, I'm sure it was coincidental that they released the transcript, documents come to Judicial Watch showing the communications between Ohr and Steele and Glenn Simpson and Nellie Ohr as well. Right. Of course, his wife worked at Fusion GPS. They were working hand in glove at the DOJ to get this information in, and it's pretty clear Steele was desperate to protect his secret relationship, but also desperate to get this information acted upon by the DOJ and FBI because evidently he hated Trump.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because Nellie Ohr working at Fusion GPS. Another thing that raised my eyebrows was this part about Rod Rosenstein, number 2 at Justice, and when he knew about Bruce Ohr's wife working for Fusion GPS and sort of how that plays into that. What do we know about that in terms of what Ohr testified and what Rosenstein did?
You know, my understanding is that Ohr suggested that they all knew about it. Rosenstein suggested he didn't know about it until much later, until, frankly, Mr. Ohr was demoted late last year after it became public he was working with Fusion GPS on the sly. So, you know, Rod Rosenstein, you know, all these folks dispute what Rod Rosenstein is saying and doing at DOJ. And I think the public's interest is served in having him move on as he is.
Well, he is expected to move on, right, as early as this coming week. Is that right, Rod Rosenstein? I understand he's leaving
I was wondering when he's going to be leaving, but it's supposedly in March. They've nominated a new person for that position. But
I've got less than 30 seconds.
There.
Well, people want to know, is there going to be anything done about this? You've got Bill Barr, a new attorney general. Jeff Sessions didn't do anything about all these connections. Will something actually come of this?
Well, that's the question for Barr. Is he going to investigate the misconduct by DOJ and FBI? Because it's all been put on hold, it seems to me, as a result of the Mueller investigation. If I were him, I'd freeze the Mueller investigation, giving all this incipient corruption behind its operations. Because remember, Ohr was talking to Steele during the Mueller investigation throughout all of 2017.
All right. Good stuff. Tom Fitton, we appreciate you from Judicial Watch for coming in with all that. Still ahead, Dan Bongino joins us. He has a lot to say about Bruce Ohr as well. Plus, a group of eco-activists believe climate change is such a threat they will not have kids. Well, Rachel Campbell-Stuffy, a mom of 8, she's here to react, and she's got a much different opinion.
There's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult. Is it okay to still have children?
for anyone, no matter what your interest, no matter how much you think you don't care about the environment, this is actually about our lives now, and it's really, really scary. I can't have a child until I am absolutely convinced that we are on a seriously, seriously different path.
Okay. A group of eco-activists in the UK believe climate change poses such a dire threat to humanity, they're pledging that they will not have kids. It's all part of a movement called Birth Strike.
Here to react, mother of 8 and Fox News contributor Rachel Campos Duffy and Supermom. Welcome, Rachel.
Good morning to both of you.
All right, morning. Tell us your thoughts about this.
Well, I think it's very sad. I really kind of feel bad for these women. They have such a bleak and depressing outlook on life. I've thought about it, and I just think this is what happens when you replace religion with ideology and politics. This is their religion. Environmentalism, abortion on demand, these things are their sacraments. And I think about my own life, my faith, my kids. They give me hope for the future. And by the way, the solutions to our problems on Earth, whether it's environmentalism or anything else, are going to be solved by humans. So I don't think this is a good solution, and I don't think these scare tactics, whether it's Al Gore and all the predictions that he had of the apocalypse coming, you know, because of global warming, which never came true, I don't think these tactics work.
Great point, Rachel. But these tactics come from an indoctrination through education, where they're made to believe that World War II is coming, the end is nigh in 10 years. And we've got another piece of news. Next Friday, students in high schools prepared to go on strike to protest climate change. Here's part of the youth strike mission. Here's what they had to say. We're striking because our world leaders have yet to acknowledge, prioritize, or properly address our climate crisis. We believe the climate crisis should be declared a national emergency because we are running out of time. So now our institutions, which our tax dollars pay for, are telling kids to leave school to protest this new religion you're talking about.
Right, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, first of all, these kids, just like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, believe the world is going to end in 12 years because of climate change and global warming. And you're absolutely right. You talked earlier today, Pete, about, you know, joining up with Elizabeth Warren on breaking up the big tech monopoly, but maybe we should start with the monopoly on our education. And these Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, these kids, they are products of an educational system that is indoctrinating instead of educating. That's where this is coming from, and it's scaring kids. I mean, it's really, really sad.
Yeah, if your teacher's at the front of the class saying the world's going to end, you better leave school, you say, oh, well, okay, I'll do that. I mean, that's not education. It's
no,
amazing.
And by the way, I just reported for you guys a couple months ago from my front porch on a polar vortex. So you're going to have a hard time convincing me that there's global warming.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
Great stuff. Appreciate your time.
You
always.
got it. Have a
Good
great
stuff.
day.
Enjoy your 8. May you have a
every
9.
day.
All right, we all want to take care. Omar says the hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage. We don't want anybody to get away with murder because they're polished.
The Democrats have become an anti-Israel party. They've become an anti-Jewish party.
The incident that happened was, I don't think our colleague is anti-Semitic.
When somebody like Representative Omar says something that's utterly indefensible, Nancy Pelosi has to go out and risk looking like a fool.
Jussie Smollett maintains his innocence still after a grand jury indicts him on 16 new felony counts for disorderly conduct.
If you lie to the police, that's very serious.
The first family surveying the devastation left by several deadly tornadoes in Alabama.
We saw things that you wouldn't believe. These are incredible people. We just met some of the survivors and family members.
Democratic primary voters looking to 2020 may be feeling the burn again.
Going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history.
Hollywood's Captain America pays a visit to Capitol Hill's Captain America. Congressman Dan Crenshaw showing off his glass eye with the iconic shield on it.
Staying on the same page, particularly Ilhan Omar, that freshman Democrat from Minnesota, a Muslim American congresswoman who made these comments that have been highly criticized for seeming to be anti-Semitic. They had a watered-down resolution that ended up not naming her specifically and just denouncing hate in general, going after white supremacists, and rightly so, but it pulled it away from where this started, which is her controversial comments, and she's at it again.
She is at it again. So lesson number one, don't do an interview right away after a controversy, which she ended up doing. She spoke to Politico magazine. And again, we've talked about the anti-Semitic comments. We should talk about it more because it still hasn't been truly addressed. She hasn't apologized or answered for it. That's one thing. But Politico magazine asked her about Barack Obama. Part of her answer was, Omar says hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage. Quote, we don't want anybody to get away with murder because they are polished. We want to recognize the actual policies that are behind the pretty face and the smile.
And Emily, she was talking about Barack Obama's policies on drone strikes and whatnot, which she said had killed people in the Muslim world and elsewhere.
And it's pretty interesting as she continues to throw logs on the fire with her rhetoric. You know, at what point are Democrats going to say, well, this is the line that we draw? Because she's frankly not being discerning with her targets, right? I mean, her comments were absolutely anti-Semitic. We have had mixed reactions from the left. They're not having a unified reaction denouncing it. And certainly she's not recovering from it.
Then she tried to run from the Politico article and the interview and say I was taken out of context. This is not really what happened. And she said, this is why I'm glad I taped my interviews. She put the tape out there. Listen to the tail of the tape, which shows that she said it about Barack Obama.
I think for many of us, we think of ourselves as Democrats, but many of the ways that our Democratic leaders have conducted themselves within the system is not one that we are all proud of. You know, I will talk about the family separation or caging of kids, and people will point out that this was Trump. I mean, this was Obama. And, you know, I'll say something about the droning of countries around the world, and people will say that was Obama. And all of that is very true. We can be only upset with Trump because he's not a politician who sells us his policies in the most perfect way. His policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They just were more polished than he was. And that's not what we should be looking for anymore. We don't want anybody to get away with murder because they are polished. We want to recognize the actual policies that are behind the pretty face and the smile so that we can understand the kind of negative impact or positive impact they will have on us for generations to come.
So she was talking about Barack Obama, and she was attacking him.
So many things to say, but let's bring in someone better to say it than us. Dan Bongino, Fox News contributor, former NYPD officer, former Secret Service agent, author of Spygate. Dan, you heard it. She released that tape. She's clearly talking about Trump and Obama. I mean, unpack those comments.
Yeah, well, guys, on a very serious note, you know, this is the hallmark of every misguided ideological revolution in human history that's been stooped in government power rather than individual liberty. Think about it. Throughout time, when you have these ideological revolutions where they want to concentrate government power in very few hands, they're inherently cannibalistic. They eat themselves alive, Pete, because what happens? Nobody's pure enough. It becomes a race to radicalism. It becomes her comments were about immigration. First, it becomes about, well, let's increase immigration. Well, let's allow illegal immigration. Well, let's just have open borders. Well, let's just give everybody money who comes to the country illegally. I mean, it becomes a race to ideological purity. And I want you all to understand, we are seeing that right now in the Democrat Party, and it is very, very dangerous.
Dan, but it's not just an indictment of Obama, it's an indictment of America. I mean, she said that time and again, as a refugee from Somalia to America, she says, America, to paraphrase, has disappointed me, hasn't given me what is it about that mindset from someone about a country that gave her everything?
Exactly. And Representative Omar attacks Barack Obama. Pete, I don't think any rational person would doubt his radical left bona fides when it came to policies, whether it was, you know, Obamacare or his tax hikes or his individual mandate. I mean, you're attacking Barack Obama. I'm not a fan of his politics, but I'm certainly not going to question his ability to get radical left legislation passed through. Listen, the problem is there's no emergency brake on their behavior. They just don't believe these far left radical socialists specialists in individual liberty. There is just no emergency brake on where they can go. And that's why I said they're inherently cannibalistic, these movements. You're going to see more of this. They're going to start attacking each other and eating themselves alive as they seek new victims.
You're right.
And Dan, speak to the fact that the Democrats are not condemning her.
Yeah, well, there's a reason, Emily. The reason is twofold. The first one is tactical. The Democrat primary season, the way it's set up, California moved its primary earlier now. California is obviously, steeped in liberal tradition. They're going to need those liberal votes. So attacking Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, this is a really bad move if you want to get the nomination for president. But secondly, the rage towards Donald Trump has just engendered this movement amongst Democrats where, listen, the party of JFK is dead. It's buried. Those are now moderate Republicans. The only home for Democrats now is on the far left radical side of that ideological spectrum. It's the only place to go.
Well,
and it's really Donald Trump that's engendered that rage.
Dan, speaking far left, California, one might think of Adam Schiff, of course, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Now we learned through Catherine Herridge's reporting here at Fox exclusively first that Schiff's staff met with Michael Cohen, who obviously famously flipped on the president, 4 times for more than 10 hours before his high-profile public testimony attacking the president. What does this mean?
Well, this is troubling. I mean, how is Adam Schiff still involved in this? This is by far the sleaziest member of Congress. He's been engaged in an ongoing media leak campaign to tarnish the image of the Trump presidency, to basically obstruct him from being able to get anything done with selective leaks of nonsense collusion hoax information. But the fact, Ed, that he met with Michael Cohen, a key witness for the left, for the anti-Trump machine, before his testimony on Trump, I mean, where's the collusion charges there? What was going on? We're entitled to know what they were talking about. Why did Cohen need to be guided by a politician about what he was going to say? Ed, can we both agree that the truth is the truth? If Michael Cohen was up there, raised his right hand, and swore to tell the truth, I mean, an honest question for you and everyone else is, well, what did he need Adam Schiff to tell him then? Well, Adam Schiff's a politician looking to get reelected. He doesn't know anything about what Michael Cohen knows.
Were they coordinating stories? Was he being coached, or is he just speaking his mind finally and telling the truth like he claimed?
Exactly. And Ed, can you imagine if this was a meeting with Don Jr. or something beforehand? I mean, granted, Don Jr. is not a politician, but you get my point. Everybody has a vested interest in this case. Schiff's vested interest is appealing to his radical left base in California. Why did he need to meet with Cohen? The truth is the truth. It doesn't need Adam Schiff to guide it.
Well, Dan Bongino, best-selling author, a radio talk show host, former Secret Service agent, and a man you want with you in Vietnam if you want to destroy a breakfast buffet.
Hey, I have newfound respect for you, Ed, by the way. This guy worked all night, folks. I've never seen anything like it, so I mean it.
It was great being with you on the road, buddy.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
talking to you.
All right, turning now to your headlines. 3 people, including a child on a school bus, are killed in a fiery head-on crash overnight. The bus carrying a middle school softball team collided with an SUV near Oklahoma City. Both people in the other vehicle were killed and 7 others injured. Now, the names of the victims have not been released yet, and no word yet on the cause of that crash. A violent carjacker is in custody after trying to illegally enter a military base. The driver ramming through the front gate of a naval station in Washington state in an SUV he stole at knife point. The father dragging his young daughter along for the wild ride. The suspect is expected to face several charges. The Kitsap Bangor base is home to a fleet of nuclear submarines. Now, Iowa's highest court just ruled that Medicaid must cover gender transition services in Iowa. Judges have decided that reassignment surgeries are medically necessary and can't be denied. The bench found that a 1995 policy denying Medicaid funding for such procedures discriminates against a protected class of people. Now, the liberal ACLU calls that ruling, quote, a landmark win, and it's unclear yet if the state will appeal. Senator Elizabeth Warren wants big tech companies to break up. The 2020 presidential candidate claims Amazon, Google, and Facebook are monopolies. Earlier, Pete said he agreed.
I think there's no doubt they are monopolies. Rather than kill them off, how about making sure a way is paved for the little guy to get in?
I'm going to defend Elizabeth Warren. I read her. I'm serious. I read her op-ed. I actually agree with her argument. I don't think you're ending these tech companies. You're breaking them up. They become anti-competitive.
Whoa.
It's true.
Warren saying she wants tech companies to work for the people. And those are your headlines.
You know, that got us thinking. And I think on the wall, we might have a little something for Pete.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes! Look at that, folks. Warren Hegseth 2020. What do you think?
You know,
is this the only thing you two agree on? I mean, vice presidents don't always agree with everything the
you
president.
don't have to agree with everything. Maybe she just puts me in charge of breaking up the big
You've
tech
got
companies.
national security credentials. You're good on TV. You bring a lot to the ticket.
No more bias against conservatives in social media. That'll be the big thing.
You can be his press secretary.
Hey,
Like,
Liz, give me a call. Give me a call. All right. Whatever you need.
We're going to have fun with this all weekend, I bet. All right.
I did not know that was coming.
You
Okay.
heard
was
several
awesome.
Democrats defending Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitic comments.
I know her to be a fair-minded person.
Do you
I
think she's
that
taking
she is taking responsibility?
Republicans and the media have blown this up to be much more than it is.
Well, Pastor Robert Jeffress tells us why he thinks this could help the president in 2020.
And it could be the best thing you've seen all day. High school athletes brought to tears as their teacher and, wow, that's cool.
Oh, man.
And coach returns home early from deployment. That hero teacher and one of his students joins us live.
Very sweet.
Well, Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar under fire over her controversial anti-Semitic comments. And our next guest says this will impact 2020.
Here to explain, a senior pastor at First Baptist Church and Fox News contributor, Pastor Robert Jeffress. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Good to be with you.
Thanks. So speak to us a little bit about the controversies mounting over Representative Omar and your take on it.
Well, the Democrats' refusal to denounce Omar is just the latest piece of evidence that the Democrat Party is not only an extremist party, it has become a godless party. Let me explain that. I mean, just look at what we've seen the last few months. The Democrats try to erase So Help Me God from an oath of office. They support the barbaric practice of late-term abortions and infanticide. And now they refuse to denounce this representative who has said truly hateful things about the Jewish people. I mean, your audience may not know this, but she actually tweeted out that she was praying that, quote, Allah might awaken Americans to the evils of Israel, end of quote. That is offensive to millions of Jews and Christians in this country. That's not just an attack upon American values. The Democrats are attacking the Christian Judeo principles upon which this nation was founded, and I think it's going to have a huge backlash in 2020.
You know, Pastor, she may unfortunately be more in step with public opinion than anyone would care to admit. Recent polling by Gallup shows that support for Israel has dropped just over the past year by percentage points. Support for Palestinians has stayed steady. So talk to us about, in our culture, the unwillingness to recognize a bipartisan consensus. I see you're in Jerusalem. I can recognize that backdrop.
Yes.
Why is support for Israel not as strong as it once was?
I think there are two reasons for that. First of all, I think it's because of the ignorance of the American people about history. Because they don't know history, they buy this liberal line that somehow the Israelis are occupying land here in Israel that really belongs to the Palestinians. But we know from history that the Jews had been in this land for 4,000 years, 4,000 years before there was any mention of Palestinians. That whole term, Palestinian, is a made-up term by a Roman emperor, Hadrian, in 100 AD. So people don't know history. But frankly, also people don't know the Bible. I think there are many Jews and Christians who are ignorant of the fact that the Bible says that God has made a promise to Israel. Israel is God's chosen nation, and any nation that blesses Israel, God said, will be blessed by God. Any nation that curses Israel will be cursed by God.
Pastor,
people need to realize what God's word says about this.
Okay. 15 seconds. I want to get your reaction to the president signing some Bibles in Alabama. Some people are saying this was a bad thing to do. What say you?
I told the New York Times last night, it's a great idea. In fact, the next time I see him, I'm going to get him to sign my Bible. There's nothing wrong with signing a Bible. I sign Bibles all the time for people. Right. It's a way of revering the Word of God.
Pastor, stay safe over there in Jerusalem, and we appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Great stuff.
All right, we all want to take care of our kids, of course, but are we doing more harm than good when it comes to medication? The psychoanalyst behind this new op-ed tells us why that quick fix is not always helping. That's next.
Plus, a teen, oh, sorry, Emily, you read it. I took you, I'll read it, okay. A teen screamed at over wearing his MAGA hat on the bus. Well, it's something we all care about, our children's mental and physical health. But are we turning to medication too quickly when it comes to our kids? A 2016 study shows 5.2% of all American kids were on some sort of stimulant to treat a behavioral problem. Now, in a new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal entitled "We're Over-Medicating Our Children," our next guest argues medication is a quick fix that doesn't help our kids deal with stress on their own. Author and psychoanalyst Erica Komisar, that's right, joins us now. Erica, thank you so much. What an important op-ed. You've written a book called Being There as well on topics similar to this. The temptation for parents, I've been there. A lot of our viewers have been there. You know, young boys, they don't focus, they're anxious. You want to turn to a solution. Why is that maybe not the right thing to do?
Well, effectively, we're drugging our children, and you'd say we're parenting by giving them pills, and it's a quick fix which silences their pain. So what we know is that symptoms like ADHD and anxiety are responses to stress and psychosocial stressors, family issues, trauma, loss, even too much pressure to achieve. And instead of really listening and understanding and being present for our children and helping, as I say in my book, helping them to regulate their emotions, we're actually just wanting to stop the symptom.
So by silencing the symptoms or what they're dealing with, we're not teaching them to manage them, which effectively they'll need to do later in life, or they keep being dependent on drugs, which, as we all know, we already have a drug problem.
Well, that's right. We're not teaching them any kind of resilience to stress. We're not teaching them how to regulate their emotions, and we're not teaching them about emotional maturity. What we are teaching them is to avoid uncomfortable and painful feelings.
Now, I don't want to play the blame game here, but is this a parent problem or is this a doctor problem?
It's a problem on many levels. Parents are influenced by their pediatricians. Parents are also influenced by schools. So many of the public schools really are pressured because funding has been tied to test scores. And so that means that some of these stimulants are really performance enhancers.
So by providing the medication, it may temporarily boost test scores, but it's not helping kids manage things they'll need later in life.
That's exactly right. So, and even not in public school. I mean, you know, it's a very competitive world, and we want our children to do well. So rather than allowing children to be children in many cases, some of these symptoms that we're seeing are related to stress. ADHD is a response to stress, but it's also the high energy of little boys is also developmental. It's developmental.
Boy, isn't that the case? As a parent of high energy little boys, what is your message to parents, boys and girls, that are looking at young boys and saying they do show all the signs of ADHD or anxiety? You know, what's your tip to parents other than medication to manage that?
Don't jump to the conclusion, even if your pediatrician tells you, don't jump to the conclusion that they have ADHD. The first thing you really want to do is you want to have them properly evaluated. Most children that are given medication in America do not meet the diagnostic criterion for ADHD or anxiety, and they're medicated. It's a quick fix. Have them properly evaluated by a mental health care provider, meaning a psychiatrist or a psychologist who specializes in children and adolescents. And then once they're properly evaluated, make sure to get parent guidance. And the American Academy of Pediatrics really recommends first to have an evaluation and talk psychotherapy and parent guidance before you ever even consider medication.
Absolutely.
Medication should not be the first stop. It should be the last stop.
Very good stuff. Erica Komisar, thank you. The book is Being There. Check out the op-ed in the Wall Street Journal as well. Great stuff. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats are encouraging illegal immigrants to vote. A look at the motion they just voted against. You can barely believe it. And we told you about the Cheesed Challenge, where parents, well, like me, threw slices of cheese at their babies. That's my little Gwen right there, getting cheese. Well, it's back, and you'll never guess what people are doing now.
Went viral. Then everyone started doing it to babies. In fact, I think, Pete, you did it.
Yeah, my family got in on it. That's coming up. That's my daughter, Gwen. Didn't get it straight in the face, got it in the hair, throwing cheese in her. She ended up eating it, of course.
And now, of course, the cheese challenge is going to the dogs. People now throwing single cheese slices at their furry friends.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but their dogs are...
Oh, that one caught it.
I dare you to try to get it on the face of a dog. They're
I would
nab
never
that.
chuck cheese at my 105-pound Doberman's face, by the way.
You might tonight, and send it to us for tomorrow morning show.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I would too.
All right. Well,
email us your videos. If you got good
yeah.
videos of this, share it with us, please.
Friends at FoxNews.com. Meanwhile, House Democrats already seem to be at least encouraging illegal immigrants to vote because Republicans were trying to crack down on that. Democrats blocked the effort.
That's right. Well,
Yeah,
go ahead, Ed.
go for it.
No, the Democrats in the House just passed H.R. 1. It's a bill they believe would curb money in politics. Here's some of the things from H.R. 1. Aiming to curb money in politics, easier to vote, automatic registration for 18-year-olds, public financing for congressional campaigns. Presidential candidates have to provide their tax returns. Wonder what that's about. Election day, a national holiday, an idea I actually support if you get rid of early voting, but they don't want to do that.
And
so.
even the ACLU released a statement against that, saying that it constitutionally impinges on free speech rights of American citizens and public organizational groups. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty telling when the ACLU is saying it's a bad idea and is unconstitutional.
The Republicans said, hey, you want to do all these things. Okay, we get it. Democrats are in charge of the House now, but Republicans had a point of view that said, if you really want to make sure that the right people are voting, people who actually have a legal right to vote, right, you should make sure and have a measure in there that says illegal immigrants clearly cannot vote because there's a concern about whether they are voting or not. Well, guess what? The House shot that GOP motion down 228 to 197. So they basically said, no, we don't want to include a provision that makes sure that illegal immigrants don't vote.
Think about this for a second, folks. Just register that in your frontal lobe. A vote, whether or not illegals should be allowed to vote in this country, was shot down by Democrats. Now, I know it was a motion to recommit. Some would say it's a procedural vote. But ultimately, now they're on the record saying, no, I don't want to prevent illegals from voting in federal elections. For all those legal citizens out there, should be an eye-opener.
And this isn't a discussion in a vacuum. This was born out of, in part, a San Francisco issue. It's happening right now, which is illegals voting in certain situations, school board, et cetera.
Local elections.
Exactly. And so it really has real-world implications, obviously, right now. Nancy Pelosi defending voting rights for all immigrants. We have a statement from her here.
She was in Texas a couple days ago.
Not newcomers, we have to recognize the constant reinvigoration of America that they are, and these newcomers make America more American. And that means not suppressing the vote of our newcomers to America.
It's a new way of calling it.
Newcomers? Is that a formal
Stacey Abrams
term?
ran for governor down in Georgia, said, I need to put a coalition together. She was talking about Asian Americans. I need illegal aliens, whatnot. She said it out loud. This is what Democrats are saying.
And I think, it's not that there is a complete pushing out or a participation in the system. It's not as if there's ostracizing happening, but I think there's clearly constitutional and legal issues surrounding whether that should happen. And that's the issue here. It's not.
Yeah, and to be clear, if you're a newcomer who's a legal immigrant, you should have the right to vote.
This is about sovereignty. This is what the president says about, do we have a country or not? Does citizenship actually matter? The term newcomer is a joke. For someone to say that is a joke. You'd expect that from an activist on the street. This is the Speaker of the House.
But words matter. That's why they call it dreamers as well.
100%.
Come up with words like
Create
that
the
make it
narrative.
seem okay.
If you're illegal, you don't get to vote. How about that one?
All right, turning now to your headlines.
I feel like an old man.
Maryland's highest court denies a new trial to a convicted murderer who gained fame after the popular Serial podcast examined his case. An appeals court reinstating Adnan Syed's conviction after his guilty verdict was overturned due to ineffective counsel. Syed is serving a life sentence for killing his high school girlfriend in 1999. Take a look at this. A school bus aide yells at a student over his MAGA hat he was wearing on Hat Day, by the way, before ripping it off his head.
Take that trash. Boy, if you don't take that hat off on this bus, take it off. I can't wear a hat? No, take that hat off. Take it off now. Put it in your backpack.
Gunnar Johansson wearing the cap at his Florida school, and he says the aide hasn't been on the bus since the incident. Note, police are investigating. The so-called goddess of pop is honoring House Speaker Nancy Pelosi by bashing President Trump.
Nancy's a fighter. She won't back down. She muscled through the Affordable Health Care Act, and she isn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with a bully and beat him at his own game.
Cher awarding Speaker Pelosi at the VH1 Trailblazer Honors in Los Angeles. A man's phone is ringing off the hook with birthday wishes as his loving sons plaster his face and phone number on a billboard.
I can't answer them all. This is over the top. Overnight it slows down, but it doesn't stop.
Awesome. Chris Berry's two sons pranking him by purchasing the billboard near his New Jersey home, and he's been getting hundreds of messages from around the world. Berry turns 62 years old next Saturday. Happy birthday. We should text him too.
Really well done.
Pete, when's your birthday?
I'm not telling anybody. Ever.
I got a great idea.
Especially you, Ed. Never.
All right, Rick, when's your birthday?
It's coming up.
Oh.
It's a big one.
It's a hint.
Oh, it's a big one.
It is a big one.
We'll make sure we get to that one. We'll get to that.
It is coming up way too soon, let me tell you that much. All right, guys, let's talk a little weather out there. There's a lot going on, including severe weather. Again, this weekend, we had the severe weather with 39 tornadoes last Sunday. Now we have another chance kind of in the same area. I'll show you that in a second. Turn on the maps, and we'll give you an idea. By the way, tonight, don't forget, wake up at 2:30, flip your clock forward so you can lose an hour of sleep, which tomorrow morning, guys, by the way, is going to be really, really tiring for us. It's the one really bad day to be doing a morning show. Here you go. There's your temps as you're waking up. That little warm air mass, that's where we have the severe weather headed towards it. To the northern side of this, parts of the Dakotas, in towards Minnesota, we'll see some spots 6 to 12 inches of snow, so winter solidly still going on. Down across the south, this is where we have that threat for severe weather. It will go throughout the day and into this evening, and by this evening, especially where you see that hatched area in that orange, that's where we could be looking at potentially a couple of large tornadoes. We saw the damage that happened last weekend from this, so if you're in this area, be very prepared and have an escape plan and a plan to stay safe if you need. All right, guys, back to you inside.
All right, Rick, happy birthday.
You know we're going to have a full-on birthday party.
We're going to have a lot of candles. We're so excited.
We'll burn the place down.
Yeah, just months into office, some outspoken freshman House Dems, as you see there, stirring up a little bit of controversy within their own party. But is their bold language causing trouble for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, or is it what Democratic primary voters want heading into 2020? Here to debate, Buck Sexton, host of the Buck Sexton radio show, aptly named, and Nathan Rubin, a Democratic strategist and founder of Millennial Politics. So good to have you both.
Thank you.
Nathan, I was on with Juan Williams yesterday, my friend, and he is my friend, but he was trying somehow to spin this whole Congresswoman Omar and the resolution and her anti-Semitic comments as a victory for Nancy Pelosi because she somehow held the Democratic Party together. Hasn't it been an awful few days for them?
I don't know if I would say awful. I mean, if you just go back and look at what
I
the
thought you wanted to
Democrats
talk
have
about
been-
jobs and health care. You're talking about
have been
anti-Semitic
doing-
comments.
Well, I mean, if you look, Nancy Pelosi was able to outmaneuver Donald Trump in the government shutdown. They just passed H.R. 1, which is the most sweeping Democratic
Which will
reform
die in the
bill
Senate.
since Watergate.